Anne Boleyn. The name alone conjures images of power, passion, and tragedy. She was a woman of intelligence, ambition, and wit, one who reshaped the very course of English history. But who was Anne Boleyn truly? How did she rise to become Queen of England, only to meet a shocking and brutal end? In this documentary, we unravel the intricate tapestry of her life, from birth to her tragic execution. Before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth historical explorations. Your support helps us bring more stories of the past to life. Let's start. Anne Boleyn was born sometime between 1501 and 1507, most likely in 1501, at Blickling Hall in Norfolk. She was the daughter of Sir Thomas Boleyn and Lady Elizabeth Howard. Her father, an ambitious courtier, was a skilled diplomat who served in the court of Henry VII and later Henry VIII. Sir Thomas Boleyn was a man of intellect and ambition, fluent in multiple languages and well-versed in European diplomacy. His talents earned him key positions as an ambassador, forging ties with powerful courts in France and the Netherlands. His strategic alliances helped elevate the Boleyn family's status, paving the way for Anne's own rise at court. However, his ambition would later make him a controversial figure, as he both benefited from and suffered due to his daughter's dramatic downfall. Her mother, Lady Elizabeth Howard, was from the powerful Howard family, making Anne a relative of the influential Duke of Norfolk. As the daughter of Thomas Howard, 2nd Duke of Norfolk, Elizabeth was well acquainted with court life and the complex web of aristocratic politics. She was known for her poise, refinement, and strict adherence to noble expectations, traits that she passed on to her daughters. Elizabeth played a key role in shaping Anne's early years, ensuring she was well educated and prepared for the demands of court. This connection to the powerful Howard family would later play a crucial role in Anne's rise and her downfall. Anne had two siblings, her older sister, Mary Boleyn, and her younger brother, George Boleyn. Mary was once rumored to be the king's mistress before Anne's rise to power. Some even speculate that her children could have been fathered by Henry VIII himself. George Boleyn, a skilled courtier and poet, was among Anne's closest allies. The three siblings were raised in an environment where ambition and political maneuvering were necessary for survival. But the ambitions of the Boleyn family would eventually place them at the heart of one of England's most infamous royal scandals. Anne's upbringing set her apart from many noble women of her time. Unlike most English ladies, she was not raised solely in England. In 1513, at around the age of 12, Anne was sent abroad, first to the court of Margaret of Austria in the Netherlands. This was a rare and prestigious opportunity, as Margaret ruled over the Low Countries and was one of the most influential women in Europe. Anne was exposed to one of the most sophisticated courts of the time, where she learned the arts of diplomacy, conversation, and courtly manners. She studied alongside some of the greatest minds of the Renaissance and was known for her quick wit and ability to hold discussions with scholars and nobles alike. At this time, she was also introduced to early humanist ideas and became fluent in French, skills that would later serve her well in the English court. In 1515, at the age of 14, her education continued in France when she joined the household of Queen Claude, wife of Francis I. This move placed her in the heart of one of the most refined and cultured courts in Europe, where she would gain first-hand experience in courtly etiquette and diplomacy. In France, Anne perfected her French language skills, learned the latest trends in fashion, and was immersed in the culture of courtly love and Renaissance thought. She became known for her charm and intelligence, but also for a sharp, almost dangerous wit. These experiences shaped her into a refined and intelligent woman, one whose charisma and grace would later captivate Henry VIII himself. During her time in France, Anne was immersed in an intellectual environment that was increasingly questioning the authority of the Catholic Church. Reformist ideas, particularly those influenced by early Protestant thinkers, were beginning to circulate within the French court, where scholars and courtiers debated issues of church corruption and the need for spiritual renewal. Queen Claude's court, though traditionally devout, was not entirely insulated from these discussions. Anne's exposure to humanist and reformist ideas, combined with her sharp intellect, likely shaped her views on religious matters. Upon her return to England, Anne found a nation still firmly under the authority of Rome, yet beginning to grapple with theological and political tensions. Reformist sentiments were slowly gaining traction among certain scholars and nobility, influenced by early thinkers such as William Tyndale, who advocated for translating the Bible into English and challenging papal authority. Though these ideas were not yet widespread, they laid the foundation for future religious upheaval. Anne's own beliefs aligned with those advocating for an English church free from papal influence, a position that would later make her a powerful advocate for religious reform. However, her stance also placed her in direct opposition to staunch Catholic traditionalists such as Sir Thomas More, making her a controversial and divisive figure in Henry VIII's court. More, a devout Catholic and staunch defender of papal authority, was a vocal critic of religious reform and opposed any challenge to the power of Rome. His resistance to Henry VIII's break with the Catholic Church and his refusal to recognize Anne as queen ultimately led to his execution. His unwavering loyalty to Catholicism made him a formidable ideological opponent to Anne and the religious changes she came to represent. Anne returned to England in 1522, likely around the age of 20. She was quickly placed in the service of Queen Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish-born wife of Henry VIII. As a lady-in-waiting, Anne caught the attention of many at court, admired for her wit, style, and musical talents. Unlike the fair-skinned beauties of the Tudor court, Anne was striking. Her dark hair, expressive eyes, and olive complexion set her apart. Her charm and intelligence made her a magnet for admirers, but none would pursue her as fiercely as the king himself. Anne's time at court was not without drama. Some believed she had been secretly engaged to Henry Percy, the future Earl of Northumberland. Percy, a nobleman of high status, was already expected to make a politically advantageous marriage. However, his growing affection for Anne was evident, and the two were rumored to have exchanged vows in secret, which at the time could be considered legally binding. When their relationship was discovered, Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, the powerful Lord Chancellor and chief advisor to Henry VIII, intervened. Wolsey, likely acting on Henry VIII's behalf, summoned Percy and pressured him to end the romance. It is believed that Henry VIII, who had already begun to take an interest in Anne, wanted to ensure she remained available for his own courtship. As a result, Percy was swiftly married to Lady Mary Talbot, a match arranged to align with his family's interests, while Anne was left humiliated and furious. She reportedly held a deep grudge against Wolsey for this betrayal, a grudge that would later contribute to his downfall. At first, Anne was reluctant to engage in Henry's advances. She had seen what had happened to her sister, Mary Boleyn, who had been the king's mistress but was later cast aside. Henry had first met Mary at court, where she served as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Catherine of Aragon. Known for her charm and beauty, Mary quickly caught the king's attention, and their affair became one of the many rumors swirling through the Tudor court. Though it is unclear how serious the relationship was, Mary was eventually dismissed from court, leaving her with no royal favor, political support, or means to secure her future. Anne was not content to be just another royal affair. She wanted more, and so she refused Henry's attempts at seduction, insisting she would only give herself to him if she became his wife and queen. Her defiance only fueled Henry's obsession, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic power struggles in English history. Henry wrote passionate letters to Anne, professing his love and longing. Some of these letters still survive today, filled with declarations of adoration, envy, and possessiveness. Henry wrote, "I beg to know expressly your intention about our love," pleading for Anne's affection. In another letter he declares, "Henceforth my heart will be dedicated to you alone," showcasing the depth of his obsession. Historians like Eric Ives, author of The Life and Death of Anne Boleyn, highlight how these letters reveal Henry's intense emotional investment in Anne, while David Starkey, author of Crown and Country, A History of England Through the Monarchy, notes the desperation and insecurity within his words, demonstrating his fear of losing her. His obsession grew so intense that he showered Anne with expensive gifts, including jewels and lavish fabrics, some of which historians estimate were worth the equivalent of thousands of pounds in today's currency. He gifted her a magnificent diamond worth a small fortune and a golden pendant set with rubies, reportedly valued at over £100, a staggering amount for the time. Anne also received rare imported fabrics, such as Italian silks and Venetian lace, further demonstrating Henry's determination to win her favor. Despite her refusals, Henry was willing to rewrite the very laws of England to have her. But there was one obstacle: Catherine of Aragon. For years, Henry sought an annulment from his marriage to Catherine, arguing that their union was invalid because she had previously been married to his brother Arthur. Their marriage had been strained for many years, primarily due to Catherine's repeated failures to produce a male heir. Though she had given birth to a daughter, Mary, Henry believed that without a male successor, his dynasty was at risk. Catherine, deeply religious and politically astute, refused to accept the annulment, insisting that her marriage to Arthur had never been consummated and therefore valid in the eyes of God. An annulment, in the context of the time, was not the same as a divorce, but rather a declaration that the marriage had never been valid in the first place. For a king, an annulment was crucial as it allowed him to remarry without the moral and legal repercussions of a traditional divorce, which was forbidden under Catholic doctrine. Henry's need for an annulment became a national crisis, as it involved challenging the authority of the Pope, who refused to grant Henry's request due to political pressure from Catherine's nephew, Emperor Charles V of the Holy Roman Empire. This battle for annulment ultimately led to England's break from the Catholic Church, the establishment of the Church of England, and the most dramatic religious shift in English history. In 1533, after years of political and religious upheaval, Henry and Anne were married in secret. Soon after, she was crowned Queen of England, fulfilling her ambition at last. But Anne's triumph was fleeting. The burden of producing a male heir now weighed heavily upon her. Meanwhile, Catherine of Aragon was formally stripped of her title as Queen and forced to live in isolation at Kimbolton Castle. She remained steadfast in her belief that she was Henry's rightful wife until her death in January 1536, likely from cancer. Despite Henry's ruthless determination to remove her, Catherine's popularity among the English people never waned. In September 1533, Anne gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth. Though she would later become England's greatest monarch, at the time her birth was a disappointment. Anne suffered multiple miscarriages afterward, failing to produce the son Henry so desperately desired. As time passed, Henry's passion for Anne cooled. He became increasingly frustrated with her failure to produce a male heir, and their once passionate relationship turned into frequent arguments. Henry's wandering eye also played a role. He began to show interest in Jane Seymour, one of Anne's ladies-in-waiting. Additionally, Anne's assertive nature, which had once captivated Henry, now irritated him, especially as she challenged his authority in courtly matters. The loss of another pregnancy in 1536 was a major turning point, further diminishing Henry's affection and making Anne's position even more precarious. Her enemies at court, including Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII's chief minister and architect of the English Reformation, worked against her, Cromwell had once been Anne's ally, but their relationship soured due to political and religious differences. Anne advocated for the redistribution of monastic wealth toward charitable causes, whereas Cromwell sought to funnel it into royal coffers, increasing his influence. Additionally, Anne's sharp temper and assertiveness alienated powerful figures at court. Seeing Anne as a growing liability, Cromwell orchestrated a campaign to turn Henry against her, fabricating accusations of adultery and treason to ensure her downfall. To turn the king against her. Rumors spread of her alleged infidelities, with multiple courtiers, including Henry Norris, Francis Weston, William Brereton, and Mark Smeaton, men who were all later arrested and executed alongside her in 1536, treasonous plots, and even incest with her brother George, who was also executed. Whether these accusations were true or fabricated, they were deadly. In May 1536, Anne was arrested and imprisoned in the Tower of London. Her trial was a spectacle, with her former admirers now condemning her. Despite the lack of solid evidence, she was found guilty of treason, adultery, and incest. On May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed by a French swordsman, her death swift yet brutal. Her final words were a mixture of grace and resignation. "I die the king's faithful servant and God's first. May he have mercy on my soul." Anne Boleyn's downfall has been analyzed and debated by historians for centuries. Many historians have provided insights into her character, influence, and legacy. Eric Ives, one of Anne's foremost biographers, argues that she was an intelligent, politically astute woman who played a key role in the English Reformation. He believes that her downfall was orchestrated by Thomas Cromwell, who saw her as a political threat. David Starkey, author of the book Monarchy, England and Her Rulers from the Tudors to the Windsors, emphasizes Anne's role as a religious reformer, asserting that she was not merely Henry's consort, but a woman of vision, influencing the spread of Protestantism and the translation of the Bible into English. Alison Weir, author of the book Six Tudor Queens, Catherine of Aragon, the True Queen, takes a more nuanced stance, recognizing Anne's ambition and charm, but also noting the hostility she provoked among courtiers. She argues that Anne's downfall was not just due to politics, but also Henry's shifting affections and the desire for a male heir. G.W. Bernard, author of the book Anne Boleyn, Fatal Attractions, presents a more skeptical perspective, suggesting that Anne may not have been as influential in religious reform as some believe. He controversially explores whether some of the accusations against her had merit, though no definitive evidence supports this claim. Susanna Lipscomb, author of the book The King is Dead, views Anne through a modern lens, emphasizing her intelligence, education, and ability to navigate the treacherous Tudor court. She highlights how Anne's legacy endures, particularly through her daughter, Elizabeth I, one of England's most formidable rulers. Their perspectives highlight the complexity of Anne Boleyn's story. Was she a victim of a ruthless political machine, or a woman who miscalculated her position in a dangerous court? Anne Boleyn's story is one of ambition, love, betrayal, and power. She was a woman ahead of her time, intelligent, strong-willed, and politically astute. While she met a tragic end, her legacy endured through her daughter, Elizabeth I, who would become one of England's greatest monarchs. Her life and death forever changed the course of English history, shaping the nation's religious and political landscape for centuries to come. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth historical explorations. Your support helps us bring more stories of the past to life. Let us know in the comments, was Anne Boleyn a victim or a master of her own fate? Thank you for watching. And until next time, remember, history lives on through those who seek to understand it.